Hey Fanimators, Kelly here. Just popping in to let you know that this episode was recorded at the CONvergence Online event last August. Thank you to everyone at CONvergence for organizing such an exciting virtual event and for giving us a space to geek out about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Special thank you to Michael and Erica for monitoring the live stream and chat, and a huge shout out to everyone who made the time to attend our panel. It was an absolute blast, and I hope we get the chance to do it again soon. Now, without further ado, let's get started and let's get animated. Welcome, my name is Kelly, and this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media, and today we are talking about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Woo! So good! Yes, so for those of you who don't know what Fanimated is, it's a weekly podcast where we geek out about everything animation, from anime to film to video games, everything in between, and we just geek out about it and have a great time. You can find us, our podcast, on any podcasting platforms, Google Play, iTunes, etc. On YouTube, Fanimated, Instagram at Fanimated Podcast, etc., etc. So thank you for joining us, and all of the things, we're here. We're excited to talk about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, and because I think a lot of you guys might be new, I want to do a little intro about us and who we are. So, Brynn, introduce yourself.
Oh, me first. Hi, I'm Brynn. I am a teacher and performer here in the Twin Cities. I have been coming to con for 4 or 5 years, something like that. And you could, if anybody remembers seeing the Katara that does the veil poi in the garden court back when we were at Radish Tree, that's me. So I have loved animated stuff for a really long time, and I'm a huge advocate of doing anime clubs at schools and introducing teachers and parents to manga, because it's just such a great way to get kids into reading. And hint, if kids are reading subtitles, they're reading. I'm actually going to be making a video, Dear Parents, here is what anime is, and talking about some of the cultural differences between what English, or what traditionally Protestant people think of as a demon, and what anime Japanese culture sees as a demon. Yeah. It's basically a monster, not a from hell demon. But yeah, that's kind of me. And like I said, I'm Demi, and I am bi-romantic and half Middle Eastern, and I'm so here for She-Ra.
Yes. If you could name one piece of animated media that is your favorite, could you name?
Steven Universe.
Steven Universe, great.
Well, I mean, I was the first guest on Fanimated, and because Kelly has a rotating list of people to get different perspectives about different animated media, and I am proud to say that I was the first. Yes. And we have our first episode is Steven Universe.
Mm-hmm. That was like 2 years ago, which is crazy.
Steven Universe is it's the same kind of like
Steven Universe is always good. Always.
So yeah, and we'll get to Steven Universe Future sometime soon.
Yes. When we can emotionally handle it, because
the content of Steven Universe Future is so much more heavy than the traditional Steven Universe, and right now during a pandemic, I just can't right now, so
we'll get to it eventually.
Eventually. So Kelly, tell us about you.
My name is Kelly. I work in higher education in Iowa, but Minnesota is definitely my second home. I lived there for almost 8 years before moving back here to Iowa, and I started Fanimated 2 years ago because my biggest thing is that animation is for everyone, and it doesn't matter who you are, what age you are, what anything. You can love animated media and be proud of it and be excited about it. So, and I think that would encompass everyone here. So keep being a strong animation fan. If you listen to the podcast at all, you will know that my favorite animated movie is How to Train Your Dragon, and I will stand by that until the day I die. It's phenomenal and my absolute favorite. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. So,
where to dive in?
Okay, well, let's start with going into She-Ra. Let's just start with like, for those who aren't aware, we will be talking about spoilers. This is your spoiler warning. Everything She-Ra. Just be warned.
I've already spoiled like
a few
last
things,
season.
Just warning you.
Just an extra warning.
Yes. All 5 seasons are on Netflix right now, so you have no excuse, because if you don't have a Netflix account, you know someone who does, so go watch it.
That, right.
Yeah. You have no excuse. So She-Ra is the reboot of the original 1980s cartoon. In She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, they live on this magical planet of Etheria, and they are fighting Hordak and the Horde for control over, because he just wants to control everything, you know? Typical evildoer shenanigans.
Evildoer, yeah.
And Adora is an orphan and was raised by the Horde, and she finds a magic sword that turns her into She-Ra, a magical princess being who is taller and stronger and has magic powers and magical flowing hair.
80s
yes.
magical flowing hair. Like
the best.
The most 80, like her princess girl, like magic girl get up.
Like magical girl transformation.
That, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. I think somebody just got into a car crash outside my window. Sorry.
I heard that. That sounded intense.
It doesn't it though. Anyways, that magical girl transformation is like the most 80s.
Oh, it is so
with the
great.
Hair, specifically with the hair flip and like coming around. Oh my god.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's so good.
Sorry, continue.
Side note, her second magical anime girl transformation, that comes later in the series, is my favorite thing ever. And I just
so
like,
good.
I squealed in glee when that happened. So exciting.
Well, and on that, I love that they aged her up a bit. Because when in her first magical transformation, she was like probably 18, I would have said, the body of like 18. And in her second one, in the later She-Ra transformation, I would say she's like early 20s. Probably early 20s. But there's a definite age difference that reflects her maturity. Perhaps. I'm not. Do you think it reflects her maturity, or it reflects where she is on her journey? There's a difference. I
think that she's more mature by the end, of course, and so yes to maturity. Yeah. That's what I would say. But
Continue.
that hair poof. That's she's got it going on. Even as She-Ra.
When Double Trouble is like, did I get it big enough?
Yes. So Adora / She-Ra is saving the planet, and eventually the entire galaxy. So
universe at that point.
Universe, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So she and her friends are saving the planet. And so let's just go into the characters, which I think is what I want to talk about the most, is just all these fantastic people, because this show is so great. Like, the plot obviously is fantastic, and they really pull you in, and it can be serial while also, being unique every time, and continuing along an overarching story. But honestly, the reason why I just kept pushing play is I just love these characters so deeply, and they're absolutely incredibly endearing and charming and so fun. And so right off the bat, and this is a question for audience members too, so put that in the chat or Q&A. Definitely let us know who is your favorite character. So Brynn, can you have one?
No.
All of them?
I have to say one, especially very early on, because I didn't really get super invested until season 2, I want to say. But as I kept going, then it just kept rolling. Which is what happens with media typically. They get their feet underneath them and everything. But especially in season 1, I was entranced by Entrapta because she is a perfect one side of the spectrum of chaotic neutral.
Yes.
She does not give two flips about anything about morality. She doesn't see it. And later, I think it's really interesting. They give her a lot of traits of autism, which is super cool to see, especially in season 4, I want to say, when she's with the princesses again, and she's going out she has to get the signal. And the princesses are saying, like, why don't you care about us? Why aren't you, trying to help us? Do you not care about Glimmer? I think that those are very indicative, like, in the way that she reacts with it is very indicative of ASD, of autism. And so she's a very relatable character for people with ASD. And even if you're, like, ADHD, I'm ADHD, I'm like, what? If I hyper-focus on something and there's that thing, sometimes I forget that other people exist, right? And,
right, that hyper-focus, like you said.
Yeah, and so I think it's really, they did it very well. They weren't using it as a comedic effect. They weren't using it unintentionally. I think that they were intentional in making her very relatable in that way. But I think that she and Double Trouble are two ends of the chaotic neutral spectrum.
Yes.
Entrapta doesn't care. She doesn't have morality really, except that she's in her bubble wherever she's at and getting her goal done. Whereas Double Trouble doesn't care that somebody's evil or not. As long as you pay me and I'm having a good time, it's fine.
Right.
And I think that it's a really cool difference, or a really cool way to really show that. So I every time Entrapta comes on, I'm like, my chaotic neutral baby.
Oh, yes, I would agree. Entrapta is one of the best characters, and she's so fascinating because she doesn't follow any normal typical tropes. Like, it's just like she's making decisions based on, science. She wants to pursue science, and and so it was really, really fun. And she makes that connection with Hordak, and I I really love that, and she was able to kind of see that in him. And I really love how you say that they kind of Entrapta and Double Trouble are the two sides of that chaotic neutral coin of Entrapta just doesn't see morality, and Double Trouble sees it but doesn't care.
Doesn't care.
Like, he understands excuse me, thank you. They sees it and doesn't let that inhibit them at all, and just goes and lives life to the fullest. Truly, Double Trouble is amazing.
Quick thing about Double Trouble, may I?
Yes, please.
So Double Trouble is I'm not sure if they have more non-binary characters. If anybody in the who's here, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that there are any other non-binary characters, but Double Trouble is actually played by a non-binary voice actor as well. And
yes.
I think that they do a really good job of in She-Ra overall, when there is a gay character, a queer character, or a non-binary character, somebody who's not heteronormative or cis, they do a great job of just making it a part of the world and not paying it any sort of no sort of sign or signal that it is out of the norm.
Right, absolutely. It's just part of them, part of
who they are, right? And it's part of the world, because there's a thing about it being a part of them, and then there's a thing about how other people react. And for example, Bo's dads, it is not. I think that this might be one of the first times I've seen a gay couple introduced as parents in an animated form, or almost anywhere. And the reaction to their dads is the same as any reaction towards a mom and a dad.
Yes.
And I I need more of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
More of not acknowledging that this is out of the norm because it's not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
So.
it's just accepted. They don't like shine a spotlight on it or something. It's just like that's the way it is, and that's good representation. And side note, both dads are awesome.
Oh my god!
Like the best. I love their dynamic together is so good. I love it. I live for it.
I want to talk about that episode, but I'm not like. Do you want to? I want to hear.
Let's finish some character stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want to talk about Scorpio too, but I want to let you talk about Scorpio or Entrapped if you want to, because they're the best.
Yes. So, Brynn and I have already discussed in depth about how we love Entrapped and Scorpio. So those are our two favorites. And I see that Colleen in chat also said Scorpio. So yes.
Yes.
Because Scorpio is just so like such positive energy all the time, like regardless of what's going on, and she just like cares
lobster
about
mom.
Yes, a lobster mom. And she just cares about everyone, and like I love, that decision that she eventually has to make of like, oh, I need to leave the horde and do what's right and find Entrapped and all these things. And it's just like, I love her journey. And then eventually, embracing who she is as a princess. Like, that's so good.
Yes.
So good. Yeah.
And she, I lost my thought because there's so many thoughts going on. She loves everybody where she's at, and part of her journey is that she needs to be treated with respect too. And yes. All of us were rooting for her to get out of the toxic relationship with Catra way before she did. And because they let it go on long enough that we knew that Catra wasn't changing. Mm-hmm. We were rooting for me personally, at least, I think that generally, but we were rooting for Catra to change, and she kept not changing and getting worse. And then we were rooting for Scorpio to leave. And she came to that conclusion eventually, and I think that that's a really important lesson, a really important thing for people to learn, is that if you're in a toxic situation, you leave.
Yes.
It's a hard thing, but you need to leave,
Yeah, do what's best for you. And like, Catra had so many opportunities to change, and it took a long time. The thing is with like toxic relationships and from experience, basically, you can't change people, and you can't change people. And so you need to, you don't need to wait for them to change. Like, they could change, like Catra does, but you don't have to wait for them to catch up. Like, you can, just
I think
space is always good.
There's something to be said about having a conversation and giving a chance. There's another thing to be said about, like, if they haven't taken that chance, having a consequence. The consequence is that you leave. And it's a consequence for you as well, because it sucks, because Scorpio still misses Catra, but you need to go. You need to take care of yourself, and sometimes you leaving is the thing that helps them most.
Right.
Because then that consequence shows them that there is a problem with what they're doing. But that story isn't told enough, I think.
Absolutely. And with Catra, like, it's like Scorpio couldn't change her. Like, Catra had to make the decision herself, and that's how it is. Like, they have to make the decision to change themselves, and she does eventually. But Scorpio goes, and it's so heartbreaking and good. Like, when Scorpio's with the princesses and they're treating her so kindly, and Scorpio's like, "Oh my gosh, this has never happened to me," and I was like, yes, girl, you deserve so much more. And she didn't even know. And I just relate to this, like, aspect so much. She didn't even know that it was a toxic relationship, really, until she left and realized, oh, this is what a good relationship is. I cried.
Because that's how it happens. Oh, yes.
So good. So good.
For people who... people probably don't know, my life is tangled. When I should have been in high school, I was in a tower. Quarantine's been great. So, like, but it wasn't until I got out of my mom's house that I realized, oh, all of the, like, I had an inkling that some things were bad, but I didn't understand how bad it was until I got out. And that is how it is in toxic relationships, is that you need to get out before you can see the true depth of the damage that's being done in that relationship.
Yeah. Sometimes you just can't see it until you step back and then realize. Yeah, absolutely. So Scorpia, her entire arc, great.
Oh, and at the end, I just watched the last episode. Mm-hmm. She's one of 2 people to have completely overcome the chip without it being damaged.
Right.
Because was Catra's chip damaged? And somebody might be able to tell me if you can't. Was Catra's chip damaged when Adora got to her?
I don't think so. Because she was fighting it. Like Catra and Scorpia are the only 2 that like got out of the chip, controlling chip, without
like completely full stop.
Yeah, with like on their own, like through their own ability to do that, and through their connections with people, really is how that happened. But Catra, it was She-Ra, like Adora, but at the time I think she had transformed. Okay, because I'm trying to remember. Because they had this whole big thing, and Adora couldn't change into She-Ra, and then she finally does to like protect Catra and all that. But it was Adora like pulled Catra out of her like being hypnotized. Yeah. So I don't think it was damaged. Catra was able to pull out of that. Yeah.
Can I also say that I am proud of them for the way that they handled Catra while she was under the influence of Horde Prime. In a lot of TV shows, especially when femme presenting characters are hypnotized, it gets real creepy real quick. It gets viscerally creepy. Like, if anybody knows, like, I've been watching Star Trek and it happens there. It happens in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when they take away what's her name's voice and things like that. Like Jasmine in Aladdin being hypnotized is just viscerally makes my skin crawl. But I never felt that with Catra. I think partially because they made her more androgynous. They slicked back her hair. They didn't play up any of her feminine qualities. They didn't like put her in a boob corset like peep window or anything like that.
Right.
They refrained from doing those things, which I think was very good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And this whole show, they would never do anything like that. Like, I just have so much faith in Noelle Stevenson and this whole crew and, like, all these people to, just do things right. Goodness.
It would have been so easy to do it accidentally, though.
Right.
It would have been so easy. Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah, so it's great. It's good. It's good. I also wanted to mention, Nathan said in chat that Bo is the best princess, and I will agree. Let's just Bo for a second. He puts up with so much. Like, especially, I forget what season it is, but whenever Glimmer and Adora are having their little spat, and Bo's in the middle of things, and he's just like, guys, you need to be a little more mature. Come on.
But best friend squad.
Best friend squad. Oh my goodness. Yes. Poor Bo. Yeah. He has to put up with a lot. And I like how, as well, like, yes, Entrapta is like the science genius, but they're like, that doesn't mean Bo can't also be the science genius. You know what I mean? Like, they don't just keep it to like, oh, only one person is the smart one. And it's like, no.
And I think a lot of us have been in Bo's shoes, where you're next to this like person who has so much knowledge about one thing, and you're just trying to catch up. And because Entrapta's whole life is tech, because that's her thing, that's her fixation, that's her hyper focus, and she's smart because she's a princess. It's literally her thing. Whereas Bo has a whole character outside of just technology.
Right.
And he can do archery, and so he's more of a master of all trade, like a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us can understand, like, being in that spot where you're trying to fill the shoes of somebody who is already better than you, but getting there slowly. And I like watching that journey.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like, there are times where I think where Bo is kind of down on himself about it, because, like, compared to Entrapta, it's like, well, I can't. But he still keeps going. Like, right. He's not, he doesn't let that stop him, the fact that there is someone better than you, because, spoiler alert, there's always someone who's better at you than at everything. So it's just like, yeah, you gotta acknowledge that. And also, he's, he supports Entrapta too. It's like, yes, Entrapta might be further along than me, but I'm going to, support Entrapta as well. So instead of just being bitter and angry about it,
And just because you're better at something doesn't mean people are going to come to you for it necessarily. We both do theater, or we have in the past, and if you are a jerk, no matter how good of an actor you are, you get put on the list of actors that nobody wants to work with, and you will not have work. And so I think that a lot of because Entrapta sometimes can be hard to work with, I think that some of the princesses would rather go to Bo, because even if he doesn't have as much expertise as her, he's easier to work with, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that that I'm saying that from a point of Entrapta's before Entrapta's arc, and before Entrapta's maturity, and I'm sure that she will continue to mature and such, but kind of relating it back to layman people here in this reality and world, like, even if you are the best at something, if you don't have a personality that is great, they're gonna go with somebody else. So it's okay if you're not the best at something. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think...
I meant it to be encouraging.
Right, yeah, no. Like, there's more... And Bo is a good example. There's more to a person than just their abilities. But also, you should always be comparing yourself to yourself. Like, have I improved today? Like, did I improve over the past month? Like, comparing it that way is, like, so much better and healthier for you. Like, no matter what type of activity you're trying to get better at. So anyway, achievement and all of that good stuff.
Huzzah!
I have another fun random question, and I want anyone who's listening, type in the chat if you have a good answer. Whose princess power would you rather have out of all the princesses? Which power? I'll go first. I'm just going to straight up say She-Ra. Because I love that her sword, like, transforms into other things. I find that fascinating. Also, not gonna long flowy hair would be really crazy fun. And you get, like, a stallion steed like Swiftwind, which it also one of the best characters is Swiftwind. Let's be real.
I think so She-Ra, yes. I do stage combat, so, like, being able to have whatever weapon I wanted right there would be so great. I can't tell you how many weapons I want because of stage combat habit.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think I'd rather have Perfumas.
Really?
Anything I touch dies. I have a black thumb, and but the only thing that I want to do is live in a room that has, like, ivy crawling on the inside of it, and, like, have, like, cactuses all over the place, and, like, I want plants. I just can't keep them alive. I recently planted a plant in my salamander's tank, thinking, well, if I'm not touching it, maybe it'll... No. He walked all over it, and he keeps pulling out the other one, and I'm like, how? You can't even feed yourself. How could you do this? So, plants just don't survive in my house.
Yeah, yes.
So I kind of want Perfuma's power.
Well, Well, you're not alone. It looks like in chat, a lot of people agree Perfuma's power would be very useful to have. Yes.
Yeah, but Scorpia as well. Like that thunder.
The lightning.
That lightning power. Oh, thunder power. Sorry. Lightning power. Yeah. Courtney, I think that would be super cool too. But like, also, I want things to live in my house.
Right.
And they don't right now.
It would be extremely useful for sure to be able to just make plants grow.
Right.
And for Scorpia's power, man, when she finally gets her powers, like, she has some of the most like amazing epic scenes using her power and her, like, you know, fighting scenes and crazy things, and I'm just like, yes, Scorpia, go.
But also, does that include the stinger? Because I don't think it does, because I think that's more of a species
that's like
thing.
her, yeah.
But I will say I love the way that they use her stinger sometimes.
Or accidental stings, and it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Or like, I'm sorry, but this is for your own good, so I'm not sorry, but I'm so sorry.
Because she's Scorpia, and she just cares about other people.
Because she's Lobster Mom.
She is the most Enneagram number 2. Man, she's great.
Yeah, and Courtney's saying that she's a large woman, and I gotta tell you, when she gets dressed up, and she's got that beautiful broad shoulders and these dresses, and just like, I'm like, yes, more of this. I agree. I think that there need to be larger women. I will say that She-Ra is probably up there in representation with Steven Universe when it comes to body type.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I agree.
Because even Glimmer has a curvier body, and I think that that's really important to have.
Yes.
And a lot of their other princesses, like Natasha.
I love Natasha.
And her wife, both of them have very different body types, and that is super important for representation.
Yes.
So I totally agree with you, Courtney.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that just kind of leads into, let's talk more about the representation in this this show, because I mean, it's such a huge topic. It's just like, it's so perfect and good, and it's just it's like the perfect example. It's just like, I just want to be like, hey, showrunners, look at this, look at She-Ra, can you do this, please? This is what we want. Like,
this is right, exactly. And more, keep pushing boundaries. Do more. Like, make She-Ra Latinx.
Yes.
Or something. Like, I have to tell you, I put on my Facebook, like, hey, people of color, if I want to make characters who are of color, because I'm sick of seeing white people, what do I do? And so they listed a bunch of tropes to avoid and things like that. So because I am sick of seeing white people in media, I am going to be making a personal comic, like, I'm not sure if I'm going to publish it or anything, but of a South Indian, like East Asia or South Asia Indian woman who has a partner who is black, and the Indian woman is going to be tall and buff and have Superman kind of powers, and the black partner is going to be short and curvy and not have lightning powers.
Yeah.
She's actually gonna have Perfuma powers. But like, I am so sick of seeing white people. I'm sick of it.
Yes, as a white person, I agree.
I'm so done with it. I am white passing, is what I say, because I'm half Armenian. So I'm white passing until I get to the airport, and then I never get through. I always get checked in the airport. It's awful. It's not as bad as it could be, but it definitely shows you where their thoughts are. Anyway, so like, I, as a white passing person, also am sick of it.
Yeah, there's so much room for more representation, and there continues to be in every category. But like, just more of it. And I would say, like, what we need, like, you know, is more diverse people that are creating shows and creating the animation that we watch.
We need more diverse people who are being hired to create shows that get put up, because there are diverse people who are creating. They're just not given the same opportunities as like white creators. And so I agree with you. I think that just a little bit of a reframe of like, they are creating, they need to be the ones who are hired though.
Yes. And given positions of leadership. Like shout out to another podcast I really love called Black and Animated, and they interview lots of people who are Black in the animation industry in the US, and so they just inspire, you know, Black creators and kind of tell their stories, and it's so good, and it's just like, yeah, it just makes me realize too that like in every capacity we just need more representation on the teams that are creating things, and that's how I mean, that's how these things happen. That's how we get more representation in media, is by having more representation in the arts, in the people creating them, in you know. So I am happy to see that has continued to grow, but it's still a problem in the animation industry. Like it is absolutely a problem, just as it is everywhere in this country. And so like there are definitely, you know, some studios that do a better job of it than others. And so it's just great. We need more of She-Ra. Yeah.
We should do Kipo and the Wonder Beasts sometime.
Kipo and the Wonder Beasts is such a good example. It's so good.
And my fish's name is Kipo.
Yay.
Actually. My female beta's name is Kipo. I named it after her. But that's a really good example of really diverse. But back to She-Ra.
Yeah.
I love. Can we talk about Bo's dads?
Yes, please. I mean, yeah, we mentioned them before, and let's just keep going because they're the best.
Oh my God, they're two men of color who are gay, like that alone. Because one of the things that my friends on Facebook were saying is, could we have somebody of color with somebody else of color, maybe? Like, because oftentimes it's somebody of color with somebody who's white. If there is representation. And so like two Black men who are gay, and the episode with the two dads is about their son hiding their lifestyle from them, worried that they're going to judge him.
Yes, it's the greatest. It's so good.
I die. It's so good.
Man.
It's so funny. And it's so meta.
It's so good. And they do it so well because it's like, his dad is like, it's very, very verbally, like, obviously against the princesses. And then he's like, and Bo's like, I can never tell them because, you know, but then when he does, it's like, I am, you know, fighting with the princesses and, you know, alongside of them. And they're like, oh yeah, I support you still, you know, like even I'm just like, yes.
and they make a point of like, we might not agree, but we love you. And I think that is something that is so good to get out there, is that you don't have to agree, but you have to love and you have to support.
Yes.
And that is the bare minimum. You know what I mean?
Bare minimum, guys.
And it's just so immediate love. As soon as they find out, they're like, we love you. We're sorry that we have failed because you felt like you couldn't talk to us. And how much that scene feels like a coming out scene without being a coming out scene.
Yes. It's like it's a very clear, like, you know, metaphor, I guess, or, you know, comparison for it, I guess, but it lands so well, and it makes so much sense. Yeah.
When I came out to my parents as poly, it was not like that. It was, and so seeing that in some way is almost like, it's just so emotional to see it done right.
Yeah.
You know, and healing in some ways, and therapeutic to see it done right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. Bo's dads, they get gold stars for just being the best dads.
And the queer representation is real strong in this one.
So strong. So strong.
I don't think that I see bi characters necessarily, but they don't make a big deal about it. You know, like they don't come out and say, "Oh, this person's gay. They just have a wife, and that's okay."
Yeah.
Like, and it's not mentioned. It's kind of like not mentioning that somebody's straight, because you wouldn't go, "Oh, they're straight."
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Again,
Bo, I'd be okay with saying that Bo's bi.
I concur. Yes, I would agree with that.
But when She-Ra or when Adora sees the older woman, I think it's in the desert. When she sees the older woman who's like buff and it's kind of that in my fighting community. Hantara, thank you.
Yes.
In the fighting community, we say, you know, I don't know if I want, like, you're super attracted to somebody who could snap you in half. Like, scared and attracted and just, like, feelings. They played that so well with Adora being so attracted to Hantara, who could absolutely snap her in half. It was really fun to watch.
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, and Hantara too is such a good. It's like even the side characters, you know, even just every character is so good and so fleshed out, and like they just complex characters. Characters that balance each other well and that interact well. You know, it's not just like the same, and it's not the same tropes either. It's not the same characters you see over and over. Yes. It's like, oh, everyone has room for growth. Everyone has like strong motivations and they you know their weaknesses and strengths like actually balance each other out really well. And it just best friend squad is the best. I just love it.
I feel like you could take almost any of the characters that are introduced and have an extra either episode just about them or a season just about them. I would watch an extra season of Hantara.
Oh, for sure. Or like some
I'm just saying
side, you know, collaboration series with Double Trouble. Just Double Trouble.
Yeah.
I just want to like...
Oh my god.
Like, could you imagine like every random... I just want to know the random crap they get up to. Like, I just want to know.
I want to know what they've done before.
What shenanigans, like...
Oh my gosh. Like, yes. I'd also like to talk about Bo and Glimmer's relationship.
Yes.
And how... it is romantic, but it doesn't... They never kiss, which I super appreciate.
I mean, girl, you know that my OTP is Hawkeye and Mustang, and they don't have, like, physical romantic connections, like, at all.
No.
And I'm like, yes.
Exactly. It is so sweet. And they like, the intensity that they have of the I love you too, and it doesn't result in this like smashing of faces. It's this beautiful pure love, and you see in Adora's like fan fiction future where Catra and Adora and Bo are like playing together in a palace suite or something like that, and Bo and Glimmer are very cuddled up, very much like a married couple would be. But nothing is explicitly said. They don't define any sort of relationship. They don't kiss. It is okay to have relationships that are somewhere between partner and friendship. And it is okay to have partners that you are not, like, it is not traditional. It is not traditional. It's so good.
It's so good. And no one in this show, falls into the category of you are there because you are the love interest.
Yes.
No one, like, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is like a character, whether male or female or anything, like if you're just there to be the romantic interest for another character, it's like, no, like that's like a part of somebody, but there's so much more. So all the characters are always more elaborate than that, and more just deeper than that. And
Yeah.
also, like, okay, I will love a good, romance story, and oh my goodness, they kiss and it's so good and it's so great, or whatever. But also,
romantic pacifier.
but also, yeah, like my favorite love stories are ones that are like Beau and Glimmer. It's just organic and it just happens naturally, and they don't even really have to say that much, it's normal everyday life with another person, and they love each other, and you can see that through more than just physical affection. Like, you can see it in their actions and words towards each other. Like, yeah. So, so
I
good.
was so afraid that they were going to have them kiss. I was so afraid, because it would have been like the very neat wrap up heteronormative, like, oh, now we're together. But it didn't. It makes me so happy. And
yes, if anything, I would really love to see, like, and shows do this all the time, where they don't want to get people together until the end, because it's like part of the tension of the story is like, oh, and then once they're together, what do you do? And
yeah,
it's like, I would love to see even more of like, oh, they get together in the middle, and then you get to experience them as a couple. Like,
yes, like in Troll Hunters.
Yes. Troll Hunters is a perfect example. Oh my goodness. Yeah, because they.
Colleen.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, nope.
I was gonna say, Colleen corrected me and said Beau does kiss Glimmer. He kisses her on the forehead.
Oh yeah,
and I agree, he did kiss her, and so you're right. I made a mistake. However, I don't think that it's still that heteronormative big kiss finale finish. I think that it is much more indicative of the warmth that they have for each other and the compassion that they have for each other, rather than a sexual tension driven romance. It is the same as them being like Beau having her under his arm at the end, right, and being close to each other. I think that it is not in the same category as the heteronormative kiss at the end and now you're together sort of thing, which I love. And so, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it even made me think, like, just in general, all the relationships, like romantic relationships in this show, like, are varied a lot. And so, like, you do have couples who are, more passionate and physical, and some that are not. And, like, relationships that show, their affection in different ways. And I really appreciate that, Yeah. And so for Beau and Glimmer, it is like a little warmer, a little just everything we already said, I guess.
Comfortable.
I mean, they all, most of them are. So, yeah. I say as I think, well, Katra and Adora get there. But can we talk about Katra and Adora for a second?
Yes. Go. Do it. Do it.
Oh,
do it.
Man. Okay, guys. Like, I mean, the finale of this show, like, what? I just died internally. I could not handle it. It was so well done. And it was just like, and it didn't feel like, Katra and Adora, like, their relationship is so natural. And it just, it like, they were... And I can't even talk. I'm so excited. So I really love how there are all these little things, and they tease each other, and they're, clearly like each other a lot and want to do what's best for the other. And it's just like, and Katra, like, Katra, I love her story and her arc, and she just doesn't quite know what to do with her feelings, and she just is like, oh, everything's better if I'm gone, but it's not. Like Adora needed Katra to save the world. Like, you were needed, Katra. And and again, I just love stories like this, like, that are like love conquers darkness, love conquers fear, and the way that they do that is so wonderful. Brynn, what are your thoughts on the end?
I think that, so I've heard some people say that they weren't satisfied with how quickly it happened, but
that's fair.
I disagree, because
Really?
I think that Katra's whole arc makes sense. That she was, so she was abused more than Adora was, very much, by Shadow Weaver, who's another person we should talk about. But Catra got the brunt of Shadow Weaver's abuse, and so I think that we need to remember that when we're looking at it, because Adora was actually more privileged in that situation than Catra. And I know we've talked about privilege in where you were born, because we talked about it with our Mononoke and Nausicaa episodes, which are my favorite.
Yes. Go back and listen to that.
Yeah, definitely. So so I think that Catra, having all of that trauma and having all of that anger, and having somebody leave, like her one person leave, I think that it makes sense that she would have, she could have gone either way. Go with her or be angry at the world, which is what she's used to, and feeling like Adora has become a part of that world that abuses her, and and then she just kept going full tilt into that, because I think that there is a part of hatred and anger that keeps you warm, and she was looking for more warmth in that way. And when she was broken down by the Horde and Horde Prime, I think her story is beautiful. Her redemption story is beautiful because she chooses to make her way back, and she chooses how, like, she was broken down pretty much entirely, and it's a story that I haven't seen yet. And correct me if you've seen a story like this, or if I've seen a story like this, but like, she was literally broken, and we got to see the progression of when she was broken down to her barest bones into being welcomed back into the group, and accepting, like, feeling her feelings that she'd had, but she was too scared to feel. I think that her companion was a big part of that too, and having a comfort, almost like a service animal, like an animal to comfort her when she was going through big feelings that she couldn't handle and she couldn't trust other people with. But I loved that arc, going back into it, and just I think that you're right, that it felt very natural, especially from season 5 on into the end, like through the whole season, of that those two are now within each other's reach, and those feelings are allowed to flourish because it's a possibility, because it might happen. And Catra being re-hurt of thinking like Adora doesn't like me, like me, and telling herself that same story over and over again, which is going back into her same patterns of, the world doesn't like me the way that I want it to. Adora is going to reject me again, and then overcoming that pattern is beautiful. And my queer little heart.
Oh my goodness. Catra's entire journey is just incredibly done. I think I could definitely see how people could be upset that, like, things happen really quickly at the end. And I think a lot of things do. But like, I guess I don't mind quite as much, because sometimes I feel like, especially with shows like this, you know, they've got to wrap up, and you know, I think that they did a good job. Like, obviously, yes, we would love to see even more of, you know, cute, angry Catra who doesn't know what to do with her feelings, and more of that, you know, relationship with She-Ra and Catra.
I wish we'd got more time.
Right. Yeah. Just like I was saying, like, it's so nice when storytellers will put their, you know, ships together near the middle, and you have time to experience who these people are when they're in a relationship. And because I just, you know, there's that constant, like, it's the constant story of like, well, now that you're in a relationship, that's the end. But it's like, but that's not how life works.
No, it's not. And that's
life continues to happen.
Courtney said Catra also died and was brought back to life by She-Ra, and that could have accelerated her change and ability to self-reflect. I think that's a really cool thought of like She-Ra's power might have helped her mentally heal as well and emotionally heal as well as physically heal. And give her clarity of being able to self-reflect in a safe place, perhaps. I think that's a really cool thought and something to keep in mind, because usually people's journey from the beginning of season 5 to the end of season 5 that Catra went through takes longer than that. So you are correct.
Yes. Yep. Definitely. And I would say in general, like, the end felt kind of fast in other ways too. Like, I wish there was like a more of an ending with Hordak and Entrapta.
Oh, I love that relationship too. They're just like, are we okay with this now? And they're just so happy to be with each other, and nobody says what they are because it doesn't matter, because you don't need labels, because it's just a beautiful relationship. Oh.
Yeah. It's just they connected and it was great. And yeah, it was just like the end just ended, and I'm glad we got at least the writers in this way were able to kind of show what would happen afterwards with Adora's like, you know, dream or vision of the future. And so we at least kind of got that, because it's like, oh, Scorpia's first ball as a princess, and you know, and then you see, of course, the squad together, but it's just like, you know, I mean, I could say this about any show, any series, anything, where I'm like, oh, but I want to know what happens next. I guess that's why we have fan fiction.
That's true. But again, like, Trollhunters did a great job of doing that. I just wish that they would do that. And with, to be fair, with She-Ra and Catra, you wouldn't have been able to do that mid-show. And I appreciate that they stopped when they stopped. I appreciate shows that know when to end.
Yes, absolutely. And don't just drag on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and never end. And it's like, just have a clear understanding of where it's going.
And that's why the fandoms are like, well, only till season 5, right? Like we don't talk about the rest of the seasons because they didn't stop when they should have. And we see that with Miraculous. They don't have an arc or a story ever. And they don't know when they're going to stop, so they don't have any sort of pacing. So anyway.
Here's the difference. If you've watched Miraculous Ladybug, everybody, that's also on Netflix. And is also crazy. Bless you.
Hold it.
Oh my gosh, when Catra sneezes, it's so cute.
My partner calls them Catra sneezes now, so.
That's so sweet. Yes. Man, what was I saying? Oh, Miraculous. Miraculous is a crazy show, but the difference is that She-Ra actually wanted to tell a story, and shows like Miraculous just want to keep going. Like, you can see that, like, shows like that are like, you know, they fall into the trap of Lost. You know, it's like, oh, we're making money, so we're going to keep just making
or Supernatural
seasons, and we're just going to pull stuff out of our butt because we just need to keep making a season and keep people watching. And it's like, okay, but like, did you have an end goal here? That's why I appreciate anime a lot more now, because it's like, okay, it's based off of manga that actually has an ending.
Unless it's like One Piece or Bleach or something like that.
Yeah. Even then, though, it's better than like shows like Miraculous that just are gonna keep going for no reason.
Right.
Like,
Bleach,
you know, they have a point.
Ended,
I don't know.
Did One Piece end yet? I'm not sure, but like they eventually end, but it's like
they're getting there.
It's a pretty big eventually in there.
Yeah.
It's a pretty decent sized eventually.
Eventually.
One Piece is still going. How? Why? Never mind. Okay. So
It's still going strong. Oh, man.
Okay, but honestly, though, I would be okay with having another season of after She-Ra. Like, I would be okay knowing that it's, like, not... Oh, my God. 900 episodes. Okay. Anyways.
900 episodes? Of One Piece.
This is why I'm not starting One Piece. Anyways. So,
I
like...
know. So
I would be... Kind of like how Steven Universe did. I know that Future was a lot darker and had more adult themes in it. Not themes in, like, sex, but... It's a lot harder. It talks about trauma a lot and, like, the consequences of having a traumatic upbringing.
Yeah.
But, like, if they had another season where they said, we're going to bring magic back to a theory, or to the universe, or to the world, or whatever, I would be down with an extra season. Not that the season needs to be, like, forced or anything, but just another season so that we can check in on our favorite characters, so that we could see where they got to. Kind of like an Inuyasha final act. Inuyasha had a final act where they checked back in with their characters and kind of like did, you know, the same Inuyasha stuff, but it was acknowledged as a little bit later, or acknowledged as like, this is our wrap up thing, which of course it's not, because now they have the new series coming out.
Oh my gosh, side note, I'm so excited for the new series. The sequel series of Inuyasha.
Right, yes. But do you know what I mean? I'd totally be down for that. I want to check in on all of them.
Absolutely. Or like, what would be fun is like, instead of like a whole season, because that can be a lot, or just like a movie or something, you know, like a little extra thing where there's a shorter, more manageable conflict, and that, you know, and then we get to see them. But of course, I mean, I could say that about so many things, and it's just like, and it's like, when is it a good idea to do that, and when is it not? Like, I feel...
That's a good question.
Because, you know, like, Steven Universe is a good example, you know, of having that kind of afterthought Steven Universe Future, and I feel like that was warranted and was done well because, like, it has a lot more to say. Like, Steven had a lot of issues to deal with, and it was good. So
it was. I think it might be intention. If your intention is just to keep going, that's one thing. But if you have a reason, that's another. Because Steven Universe had a reason. It was to show, to talk about trauma, to talk about what happens, and they. I don't want to get into it because this isn't the Steven Universe one, but there was a reason that they did that, and I think if they had a reason for She-Ra and made it clear what the reason was, because the Steven Universe movie, I felt like there wasn't much of a reason except to summarize Steven Universe into a movie. I feel like that's what the movie did. But if She-Ra were to like be a very specific, this is after we saved Etheria, we're going to bring magic to the wider universe, I feel like that would be good. You know? We are going to share the Steven Universe Future sometime. It's like we said before, it's a heavy topic. That's why during quarantine it might not be the best idea.
No,
especially,
we're gonna wait until we're in better places to talk about.
Speaking about trauma, put Rapunzel back in the tower for quarantine.
Yay!
It's been an interesting 6 months. Moving on. But yeah.
Yeah, but it is an interesting question to think about, like, where...
if they could do another one.
If they would do another one, what would it be about? Like, what would they be focusing on? What would their intention be? Because, like, I mean, in general, I think they wrapped things up pretty nicely, and they didn't leave any crazy loose ends, you know? It was pretty well... It was pretty well executed, I think, their finale.
I agree. But I still want to see more.
Well, I have one more question, and that is, I know we already talked about a lot of these moments, and obviously the finale is one of them for me. But what is, what are some of your favorite moments of the series? I don't want to say episodes because to me, I feel like they all run together. But like, what was a moment where you're like, yes, this is it. This is amazing.
You first, because I have to think about this.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, definitely, like I said, the finale, and also when She-Ra comes back. So when Adora, breaks the sword and she can't turn back into She-Ra, and then when that, when she's able to bring She-Ra back to save Catra, that was like just so epic and amazing, and just man, I was so excited. And then also, just like. Just season 2 in general, like when they started to get into more of like revealing and understanding, oh, this is like a bigger conflict than just Etheria, like that whole concept, like because before that, like my history of watching this show was I watched the whole first season when it came out originally, and then I didn't ever catch up again until recently, and I was like, because then everyone's like, it's amazing, you need to go back and finish it, and then I did, and I was like, and that was those were kind of the moments of like, oh, there's deeper lore, oh, there's deeper stuff going, there's more behind the curtain, and for me, like that's like a really just a big plug in stories for in general, like that's what like if there's an interesting plot, if there's a good mystery box, as you'd say, if there's something that's really intriguing pulling along, and then like this show executes really well on that and reveals that mystery box, and it's like, wow, oh man, there's Horde Prime, and oh Adora is a first one, like those mystery boxes were worth the wait and worth the questioning. So
yeah, I think the times that stick out for me is when they got really emotional and they had emotional connection. So for example, the ending with the kiss and Catra, and with Bo and Glimmer, those last moments, you can see you can feel it, the chemistry that those characters have together on the screen in a cartoon is palpable almost, and
yes.
the emotion that Catra is saying, like, I love you, can't you understand that I need you, and that please come back, like the thing that got me was stay with me just this once, or whatever the actual line is, like, please stay with me this time.
Yeah.
Just
it's so good.
Yeah, and it makes you feel. And another time that they did this really well was during conflict. So the times that the one Mystery episode where Adora
so much,
where Adora and Glimmer are at each other's throats, and I think the first time I watched She-Ra, season 4 wasn't my favorite because there was so much conflict and you felt this all the time, and it was uncomfortable. I, as a performer, and I, as a creator, now can step back, now that it's all over, can step back and appreciate how well done it is, and how much you feel. You can, the writing, the animation, the voice acting, you can feel how much tension there is, and that's really impressive, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so, like, when She-Ra and Glimmer are yelling at each other right before they catch Double Trouble, that sticks out to me as, like, wow, it's real. And that whole season where they're having this, like, push and pull of completely understandable. I don't know what I would have done in Glimmer's situation, because I don't I think that if this were a different show, Glimmer would have been correct and saved the planet. Like, if the backstory of this show was different, Glimmer could have been entirely correct in going and doing what needed to be done. If the mechanics were different. And I don't think that there was a way for her to know, besides trusting Adora and Bo, like you could see if this was from Glimmer's point of view, you had a different episode that was everything from Glimmer's point of view, that Adora and Bo were not listening and going off and not doing the right thing, but Glimmer had a job to do and she was going to save the planet. If this were from her point of view, then she absolutely would have been the hero and we would have been rooting for her if we didn't know what we knew, right? I think that was really well done.
Yeah, and you can even, you know, putting yourself in her shoes, understand where she's coming from. And that's huge. Like when there's conflict, it is always stronger, in my opinion, when you can understand both sides. Like you understand both points of view. Like a story, I feel like, falls flat when there's a conflict that doesn't have a strong enough motivation, you know? Like you can't understand the other perspective, and you don't see where they're coming from, even if they're incorrect, even if they're wrong. And obviously there are some shows where that's the point. It's like, oh no, this is the evil person. Like, and it's a joke or a part of that in some way. Right. Like, I don't know, examples escape me. Phineas and Ferb, right? Dr. Doofenshmirtz that's his role. Right. Is just, regardless of if you understand where he's coming from. But
right.
For other things where it's like, oh no, I understand where that conflict is coming from. My favorite example being, of course, Varian from Tangled, the series. Like you understand where Varian is my baby. My precious baby child, and he just goes through some crap, and you understand where his motivations are coming from, even if they're wrong and they're incorrect and his actions are incorrect. I can see where he's coming from, and that just makes the story stronger. So in general, I think She-Ra did a good job of that.
Can we speaking of evil, can we talk about Shadow Weaver? Gosh, it's
where to start, right?
Right. She's very Mother Gothel in a lot of ways.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And I think it was halfway through this show that I realized that she was so much harder on, like that much harder on Catra than she was on She-Ra.
Yes.
And it's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And her false coming back, like, at what is it? Her false redemption. Almost she's like halfway there, and then she doesn't make the full recovery. And I think that that's very real. She gets to Moon Palace, right? Is that what it's called?
Where, like, Glimmer?
Like Glimmer's house.
Yes. It's
a thing. So she gets there.
Yeah.
Bright Moon. Thank you.
Bright Moon. Thank you. I was like, it's Moon something. Yeah.
She gets a Bright Moon, and she's like, okay, I'm dying. You're the only one who can heal me, which is like a selfish motivation. So we're still not sure if she's actually changed.
Right.
And then she's there, and she's teaching Glimmer, and she's influencing Glimmer, and you can see her influencing Glimmer. But she's so gray there. She's not helping the Horde. She's not really like helping She-Ra's side of things, or like she's just there and pushing forward in her own way of helping Glimmer to become more powerful. And you don't get this real redemption until the end, where she takes off her mask and sacrifices her life, which is an easy redemption. It is much harder to live through your redemption than to do a single act to redeem yourself.
I was just about to say, that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just not a fan of that like, oh, I did one thing and I died now. And it's like, well, wait, what? No. Like, you have to live through it. Again, I'm going to use Varian as an example. I apologize. shock. He has a redemption arc, okay? And like,
Yeah.
and he has to deal with the consequences of his previous actions. So he has to deal with the consequences of nobody trusting him. He has to deal with the consequences of just getting a lot of like, you know, he just can't connect with people in the same way because like he's done all this horrible stuff. Well, you know, Shadow Weaver didn't have to actually face any of the consequences, you know, like that's the big thing for me, again, in general in stories. Consequences, like your actions have consequences, and like being able to see that and have like a character go through that is just like really impactful, regardless if it's a good consequence or a bad consequence to whether it's a good or bad action that caused those consequences. And it's like, yeah, Shadow Weaver just like got off easy, and also like like where's the redemption between that? Like, I mean, I guess you between like I guess that abuser and the abuse, and I guess you can kind of see like Scorpia and Catra do have a moment too, and but it's like more of that would be interesting to see, or like you know, what of the people who don't change, you know, or you do not get a redemption arc, but yet are still there and still like, you know, how do you...
Well, that's why I think Shadow Weaver's so interesting, because she's so gray, and I don't think that her giving her life is the end of her redemption arc. I mean, it's the end of her life, so it's the end of her arc, but I don't think that is the... I don't think that that's the stereotypical redemption arc, you know? There isn't this feeling of completion. It's she stayed gray, and then she did a thing. You know what I mean? I agree with you that I don't even know if I'd call it a redemption.
I don't think so. Now that I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, I don't think she had a full redemption at all, because she's
not a full redemption. No, at least
she like, okay, I mean, I don't know if I would call it a redemption, because like she just made a choice at the end of her life, and it was good, and I guess she did say like she saw things were wrong and stuff. But again, like she was not, I feel like the full redemption arc would be facing the consequences of your actions and moving to fix those things. So
yes,
in her case, like, you know, Adora and Catra especially have to live with Shadow Weaver's actions against them, and Shadow Weaver can't do anything to help them through that consequence.
And I think that it's much harder to heal when the person doesn't acknowledge what they did wrong. And I don't think Shadow Weaver ever said that she did anything wrong. I think that she gave reasons of why she did it to make you stronger. She never said that it was wrong. And being a survivor of abuse when the abuser does not admit that something was wrong is much more difficult. It's still difficult no matter what, but it's hard. In some ways, it's harder. And
it is. No, I was going to add that. Like, I would say majority-wise, you don't get an apology, and you don't get that recognition. And, like, why isn't this panel all day? Keep talking. Yes, right?
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks. Thank you, yeah. So I will just add to that, you know, quite often people don't get an apology from their abuser, or don't get any recognition to that they did anything wrong, because quite often, like, abusers are a little more sociopathic and don't understand. And like, and I just want to say in general, for people dealing with that, like, again, you can't control other people, and you have to make decisions for yourself, and you have to find reconciliation and healing within yourself. And it's hard, and it sucks when people don't like admit that they were wrong, when they do an injustice towards you. But you can't change people. People need to change on their own. Like, and like, that should not be your burden. Your burden is not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard, because, like, speaking from personal experience, like, if somebody, it doesn't bring a feeling of resolution, and you have to find your own resolution. So it becomes it's much harder to divorce yourself from the person to find your own resolution inside your own life. It makes it so much easier if you could resolve here instead of having to take yourself away from that and to resolve it all on your own. And so that sucks. And I think that Shadow Weaver saying to Catra, like, I'm proud of you, the one thing Catra's always wanted to hear, is good. It is. But Shadow Weaver never said that she was wrong. Shadow Weaver never said that she did anything wrong, and therefore she did not redeem. She didn't have a redemption. She did good things morally-ish. I don't know if I'd call it moral. I think she's very much a neutral.
She's always neutral, like, yes.
She's neutral, but it's kind of like, while I'm here, I might as well teach Glimmer to gain trust. And you never know if there's a... sorry, there's sirens. I know y'all can hear it too. I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about Shadow Weaver and her...
Oh, Shadow Weaver, she taught Glimmer, and you never know, that's right, you never know if there's some sort of dark intention behind it or not. You have no idea, and it's unsettling the whole time. Yeah, I think it sucks, but it's so real.
Yeah, it is. It's so real.
So like, real. My mom, personally, she texts me every so often, and there's no resolution. But I've had to take myself and find my own resolution.
Yes.
Even if we're on okay talking terms, there's still no resolution behind it, so there still hasn't been that redemption.
And... yeah, no, I could talk about this topic forever. And I will say, because I know we're nearing the end of our time.
We're 7 minutes out from the end. Ugh.
But I do have a final thought on that. And that is, Catra, using this as an example, like, Catra, in the end, like, doesn't get Shadow Weaver as part of her reconciliation. And oftentimes that's the case in real life. But like, Shadow Weaver is not who Catra needs. Adora is who Catra needs.
Yes.
And it's not about your relationship with your abuser. It's about your relationship with the people around you who support you and love you and care for you.
Although, also, if Catra didn't have She-Ra, or Adora, that would be okay. And truly, Adora is not who Catra needs. I think Catra needs herself and whoever is around her to support her. And so I want to be clear that if somebody is feeling what Catra feels and doesn't have an Adora,
right, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. I'm just saying, like, the people around you that care about you and love you, like, there are those people, and spend more time with them and
a counselor.
And a counselor. Woo! Counselor.
Counseling!
There we go. We're again nearing the end of our time. I love how we just ending the conversation with everyone needs a counselor, and it's normal and good and healthy.
Yes, so everybody on She-Ra needs a counselor, because I mean, like, we're going through a global pandemic right now. It is traumatizing, even if you are not, like, even if you don't have depression. Going through this whole experience is actually a form of low-level trauma because of everything that's going on in the world. So if you are feeling that there's something wrong or off, I highly suggest you find a counselor. Yeah. There are lots of online resources. Counselors are easier to find than ever and be in front of it than ever, with everybody being online and on webcasting and Zoom and everything like that.
Absolutely.
I do it. Everybody in Etheria and on Earth should go to a counselor.
And I think Jamie summarizes it really well, saying it really speaks to the quality of this show that we're now getting into topics of abuse and broken relationships and how they affect people. Because again, it's this show, it's the people who created it that created something deep and meaningful and has impacted so many people. We didn't even talk about this, but like, She-Ra just has such a huge following, and obviously all of us, everyone here loves She-Ra. And like, again, one of the reasons I love animation so much is that like, it's just like the being able to connect with people in this way, and like, just reach so many people and say something that is so important and supportive. And that's why it's like animation is for everybody, because like, you know, there are people out there who really needed She-Ra and they got it and that's what they needed, or like whatever media that is like speaks and resonates to people in different ways. And
100%.
Man, gosh.
In our last 3 minutes, Kelly, tell them how they can find us again.
Yes. Okay. So
and about Fanimated, because we're doing stuff. We're doing stuff soon too. If you liked hearing this and you liked seeing us live, we do live stuff too.
Yeah. So we're on YouTube at Fanimated, Instagram at Fanimated Podcast. You can listen to Fanimated, the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. We're everywhere, literally. And you can email us at fanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. So we've got, man, like 60 plus episodes from the past 2 years. We talked about all sorts of things. We mentioned we have a Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind one we did recently.
I love that one so much. If you like meaty conversation like this, like Nausicaa goes there.
It goes there. It goes deep.
And I suggest listening to Mononoke as well, because we talk about those pretty interchangeably.
Yes.
Pretty entwined. But continue.
Yeah. Coming up on the podcast, we're talking about The Incredibles. We've got some stuff about Attack on Titan coming soon. So definitely check it out. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, thank you to CONvergence for making this possible. And there's still, the CONvergence Online is not over yet. There's still panels going on today. There's one, I think, coming up soon that's like Wonder Woman. That looks awesome. Yes, that one looks awesome. So I'm excited about that too. So.
And next year, hopefully we'll be live. So come and find us. I mean, like, we'll be live. Hopefully we'll be in person.
Right. I just want to be at a convention in person with real people and see them, not just through a screen. But I appreciate that we can do it this way too. So thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah. And
thank you, CONvergence. Thanks for having me on, Kelly.
Thank you, Brynn.
I'm so glad that you listened to my advice and watched She-Ra, and now we get to geek about it, and I have been able to drag you through this whole experience with me.
Oh, your evil plan worked. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. To hear bonus content and vote for upcoming episode topics, you can join the Fanimated crew over at patreon.com/Fanimated. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fanimated Podcast to stay up to date with all things animated. And don't forget to leave a rating and review telling us what you'd like us to watch next. The music is provided by Purple Planet Music and the art is done by myself. You can find me on Instagram at CandorDraw. Thank you, Brynn, for joining me for this panel, and I'm excited to chat with you next week about what we've been watching recently. In the meantime, stay tuned and stay animated.
True friendship is slowly dragging your friends into various fandoms. Correct, Jamie.
Great point.
Correct.